Good morning.
Good
So,
morning.
one of the things in getting prepared for this morning's talk and connectivity between Germany, San Francisco, and Bombay um, was this connection, deep connection with the Art Institute, and how both San Francisco and the Art Institute has this history of bringing um, different people together. And the school did that wonderfully. And the projects we'll be seeing between of you, Mika's and Yoshuda's today is a sort of testament to that connectivity. I can't think of another word. It's still early in the morning, and I have a cold, so sorry about that. And the next big part of that connectivity is this alumni association. I mean, I was at the school for 50 years or so, and we could never get an alumni association to really work. They tried it a couple times and it always. Maria, our great leader here, has managed to really knit one together. And I am so thankful and grateful for her and others' energy to do this. And so it this organization really is carrying on the spirit of the Art Institute, which we all love and miss. So um, I'm just going to be here saying things on occasion. I enjoyed having both these wonderful artists as students. Um, I'm learning more as we prepare for this talk and find out what they've been up to. I've known some of it, um, but they have their own lives. But they've kept an unusually intense friendship and connectivity across great spaces and time. So I will turn it over to however this is going to start flowing. So, all right, where did you meet?
We met at the San Francisco Art Institute.
Yeah.
We were both in the same cohort in 2016, doing our Master of Fine Art. I did it in studio art. Mika, you did it in
Yeah.
photography?
No, in
Yeah,
studio art too.
in studio
Yeah.
art as well. So
Yeah.
both of us
What
did
was
it in
wrong with
studio
photography?
I
art.
still did most of it was photography, but
Yeah,
yeah, didn't want to.
yeah.
And yes, and we went in this time through a lot of life events. And especially for me, I got married right after graduation, and Vasudha was my witness. And she was the first to hold my baby that I gave birth to soon after as well in San Francisco. So we share a lot of that as well. Um, and should we start to introduce each other, Vasudha?
Mm,
Yeah.
Bit of
that'd be
the
I could
great.
do that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sort of briefly introduce her through her bio as well, just because I feel she's done an immense amount of work in her practice, and I would love to sort of foreground that a little bit before I go into our personal relationship. But Mika is a lens-based artist and an author, and she currently lives in Germany, in Darmstadt. She was born in Norilsk, which is a mining city in the north of Siberia. She's the youngest of eight children, and her family migrated to Germany during the first year of her life. So she moved to Germany at a very young age. And after which she's obviously lived there and then went on to study photography. And then, of course, our paths crossed while we were doing our MFA at the San Francisco Art Institute. Mika's practice draws from personal experiences. She looks at family, relationships, looking at the emotional landscape of these very intense relationships that we share with our family members. as a source of her inspiration for her various bodies of work. And that has also led her to produce some fantastic work throughout her practice. She's exhibited at Foam Museum, at Dichterhallen in Hamburg, and has also published her first monograph in 2022. She did this body of work called Mother Tongue, which looks at her relationship with her Vietnamese mother-in-law. More recently, she's done this body of work called I Have Done Nothing Wrong, which I'll get into more detail shortly. Yeah, we're in the presence of a fantastic artist, and I'm also so glad to call her my friend.
Thank you so much, Vasudha. I would love to introduce you now too, but I'm not as eloquent as you, but I'll try my best. So Vasudha was born in Bangalore, and she currently also lives there and works in not in Bangalore, in Bombay. Now, she is exhibited internationally at venues such as the Holden Bookworks in Norway, in Southern Exposure in San Francisco, at the Elizabeth Foundation for the Arts in New York, and at the Goethe Institute in India. And in her work, she explores the complexities of identity, domesticity, and gender through conceptual photographs, text, sculpture, and performance. And through her work, she confronts ideas of otherness within the patriarchal frameworks of culture, and she then provokes one to question their biases towards the object, including her own. She's also creator, editor, and educator. And after leaving the San Francisco Art Institute, she returned to India during Corona by accident. Not she went to India for a wedding and then ended up staying because of the what happened in the pandemic. She never returned, and so she's started a work that's called Spoiled Fruit that she will open for the first time next week, a solo show. And I will also shortly talk about that work a bit when she shows us an image. But yeah, so I hope you get a bit of an image through that.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, you guys, for introducing each other.
Should I share my screen
Please.
for the presentation? Okay, super. All right. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Just a little photograph of us in our respective studio and exhibition spaces more recently. And I want to take a brief moment to talk about Mika's latest work, which is I Have Done Nothing Wrong. She published this along with Akta Sood, and this body of work is incredibly powerful. In this work, she sort of looks at the complex emotions and confronts the silence associated with survivors of child sexual abuse within her family. It draws from images, from photography, from text. She's also written a beautiful and very empowering play in this work as a way to sort of confront the abuser in her family while simultaneously erasing him, as you can see in the cover of this work. And I feel lucky to say that I have a copy of this book, and it's a really intense journey that you go on. You're looking at archival images of her childhood in the presence of her abuser, who's been removed from these photographs, simultaneously with a play that confronts this very individual, and you're on a walk. It's almost like you're with a companion when you're experiencing this work. There's a sort of presence of both tenderness and violence at the same time, and that juxtaposition feels extremely powerful when seen from the lens of a child who has experienced this kind of violence. Mika has been shortlisted for the Author Book Award at Rencontre Al, and she has won the Discovery Award at Rencontre Al for this body of work. Most recently, she exhibited at Cortona on the Move in Italy, and next year she'll be showcasing this body of work at a place near Paris in early 2026. So, yes. And Mika, do you want to briefly mention this?
Yeah, just this morning I got this from Todd Heido, who was asked to create a book selection in a store in Paris during Paris Photo. It will be exhibited, and he will present his selection. And it's under the theme of family relationships, and I found that quite great to be amongst that selection of books. And then Spoiled Fruit, the body of work which Vasudha will open next week and has been working on it for the past 5 years. And I've been in this process, I've been witnessing this process as well. And in Spoiled Fruit, it treats the body as an archive where tenderness and defiance coexist. Through photography, letters, and sound, she explores how women's bodies in India are shaped by caste labor and the quiet violence of expectation, preserving gestures of imperfection like scars and that are kind of serving as a resistance. And she was inspired when she did this by a question she asked her mother as a child, that is blemished fruit spoiled? And the mother answered, no, it's just hurt. It's not spoiled. And that work shows how flesh stores memory and survival and defiance, insisting that the ordinary is also political. And I have to say that what comes with opening the show in India is also a fear of resistance from the audience, because there has been shows where they show sexuality of women or bodies where it's people don't like this and have either torn pieces down or talk bad about it, or so Vasudha is also confronted with that. So it's not something very regular. I think she said it's 21 and plus only to see this show. So it's very different from the Western experience we have, right? Yes. And there's also a beautiful artist book. She's been also working for several years, and she made this version in Norway in a residency she did there before she came to see me in Germany. And I've holded parts of this book, and it's quite tender. As you can see on the right, she used a fabric, a texture, kind of to overlay over the bodies of the women. And each of these women have written statements or letters about how they see and reflect on their body. And she's included them into the book anonymously as well. So when you have the experience, when you see the book and go through it, it's really, really, you sit down and you start thinking of your own body and experience, and how you start to kind of reflect upon the things that you hate about your body, and why is that, and who has taught you to do that. And so there's also violence in it, a lot of politics, and where you what's it called? You become angry when you read it as well. But then the images are so tender and beautiful. So I really like how they kind of hold you. And this, I don't know the word for it, but it's similar to my book in this way, where there's beauty, but then there's also pain,
Mhm.
both kind of simultaneously, I feel.
How does in the picture of the framed figure, I you can see how that transparent curtain would come down. But
Mhm.
is that also included in the book? Is that part of the interior of the book?
Are you talking about the image on top?
On the right with the
Yeah.
Yeah.
text. Yeah.
On the right, yeah. So, yeah, it actually covers the photograph. It's basically photos that I took of natural textures while I was at this residency in Norway, in the south of Norway, in this town called Halden. And I took these photographs of nature and then letterpress printed them on Japanese kozo. So these are all manually letterpress printed photographs.
Okay.
Which I then juxtapose against the body to sort of play with this idea of concealing and revealing as well. What does it mean to conceal the body, and how does one, what does the act of revealing do? And as Mika said, there's also text about women sharing their experiences of violence, of abuse, but also, tenderness. And so these narratives which are anonymous become this larger archive of like feminine experiences, especially within the South Asian subcontinent.
Yeah.
Um,
And also it implicates the viewer.
yeah,
You lift this
exactly.
to look and,
Yeah,
see that
yeah,
intimacy. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
And I wanted to sort of just introduce a few photographs of us while we were at SFAI. I'm sure you can tell that we've aged quite a bit from this photograph.
No, we didn't.
But
Very good. Yeah.
um, yeah. But this is us a couple of years ago, 6, 7 years ago, at SFAI. This was at the De Young Museum. I think I don't remember whose opening it was. This was, Mika and I at her studio, and us exchanging work and looking at each other's work. Because both of us gravitated to sort of turning the gaze inwards in our own relative practices, we automatically felt like a collaboration was easy because we were interested in the same themes of family and gender and womanhood, motherhood, and relationships across, generations. Like this body of work is about that. Um, and also music, music became a really important part of how we sort of built a kind of friendship and intimacy in our life. As Mika mentioned, I was at her wedding as a witness. We also This was us right before our vernissage in 2018, and this is us on the SFAI terrace during our graduation ceremony.
Mm.
Um, so we've just built this friendship, pretty, I want to say, consistently over so many years, even during COVID, which was one of the earliest forms of our collaboration, really. We engaged in a sort of call and response throughout COVID for about 6 months and would send photographs to each other back and forth. And that was one of the first times we ever did that and felt the desire to keep doing that, but hadn't really found the right sort of mix of the work that we were doing and also the sort of life experiences we were going through until this work that we will now talk to you a bit about. Um, yeah.
Will we see any of the call and response, the earliest back and forth?
I can try and look for it.
Oh,
The
oh,
problem is
it's
that
okay.
it got taken down from the website that it was on.
Oh, okay. Maybe you can
We
share
have
that.
the individual photos, but I don't have the almost all the call responses. But yeah,
Okay. We'll get that
we'll circle back to
information.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Mika, do you want to talk about love letters now?
Yes. So, Love Letters is a work we started earlier this year. and it explores intimacy through the lens of close friendship. And in this body of work, we are simultaneously collaborators as we are confidants for each other's lives. And we examine our relationships. Basically, it started because we were both on the phone all the time earlier in the year, and talking about hardships of our relationships most of the time, while also sharing our artistic approaches and ideas. And since she started a work about called Saffron and Green, about her partner relationship to her partner, and I also have been trying to edit a work of my relationship to my husband for the past 6 years. We kind of suggested that we start focusing on these two body of works, and love letters is kind of the umbrella under which this has taken place. So it's personal, cultural, and political, while we kind of nurture each other artistically. We use photography, letters. We've written each other tons of letters. Some get lost in the mail. We have a tendency to record them and send the recordings to each other as well. And we created this cross geographical dialogue on love, resilience, and the challenges of sustaining a romantic relationship and intimacy under societal scrutiny. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read one of my letters. Dear Vasudha, you just spoke to your parents about your partner's choice, and now you're deeply hurt by their reaction. You knew it would be hard, but it's different when we are actually in the moment and have to face those difficult feelings. I wish I could accelerate your process with wise words or soothing promises, but there are no shortcuts for this. I believe everything has to be felt. To disappoint your parents is a pain you have to feel for as long as it wants to be in your body. One day you'll wake up tired of feeling it. Something else will replace it, and you're free to go. You will feel lighter, but first you will feel heavier. Our ancestries have an impact on us, but revolutions don't happen because we obey and follow the same course. It wasn't you who made the decision to fall in love. Your heart did. Follow it, and it won't betray you. Love, Mika. And we sometimes ask each other to make drawings of ourselves and send that in the letter as well.
Yeah. And I'll read this letter that I wrote to Mika. This was a photograph that I took of her breastfeeding. I think it was like 6 in the morning when we were in her studio in Hamburg when I visited her in 2023. Dear Mika, it's this photograph that I was talking about. I remember looking at you for a long time as Caillou was feeding and you fell asleep. There is a certain kind of memory I have attached to this photograph over time. I couldn't help but think, how many hours have you spent in your lifetime breastfeeding? How many years? In Arundhati Roy's latest memoir, she talks of herself as this valiant organ attached to her mother. That is what this reminds me of. I see you, Mika. I see all that you do. Love, Vasudha. So yeah, this is just a brief snippet into love letters. We've written over 30 letters, I want to say, in the last 6 months to each other, in addition to drawings and photographs that we send to each other. But for brevity, we've just given a sort of snippet, and then I'll talk a little bit about Saffron and Green, which is my body of work in this larger collaborative work. So my work centers on my relationship with my Muslim partner in India, and the personal and the social political challenges of our union in an increasingly Hindu majoritarian state. In this body of work, I write letters, thoughts, almost like a stream of consciousness, to sort of examine the impact of these state-sanctioned realities and laws and the deeper consequences of it on an interreligious relationship. I talk about the fears that I have, the losses that I experience, and how my relationship has invariably sort of become an act of protest in this current political climate. And what does it mean to really make choices and have the freedom to choose somebody that who you love, right? So these are certain ideas that I explore in this specific body of work. And just briefly to contextualize, saffron and green represent the colors of our respective religions. While both of us are atheist, we cannot escape the labels that have been placed on us in this country and the way that things are at the moment. And I'm going to, go through a selection of photographs. Both of us will present a few photographs from each of these works, respectively. And then there's also text that some of which I will read out. Sunday, April 6th, 9:25 p.m. Mika, there's so many things I wish I could share with my parents because I want them to celebrate the different ways I'm growing in my life, but I assume they would only be hurt. I wish I was more like them, choosing a conventional path, being with someone stable and approved by them. Life would have been easier for them and for me, but I'm just different.
Could you read the caption on this one, please?
Yeah. Last year, I stumbled upon this photograph of him with his mother stacked between newspapers in his old apartment. I felt taken aback seeing him dressed this traditionally. For a brief moment, I wondered, what if, like my father, he becomes religious again in our shared future?
Hmm.
I spent time with his sister-in-law and her sisters. They were silly, carefree, completely themselves together. Watching them, I felt a small ache, envy, maybe, for the closeness they shared without effort. My sister doesn't ask about him or us.
Is your sister married?
Yeah, she's married and has a kid.
Mm.
Our new home in secret. My parents don't know that we just moved in together.
I don't think we can probably read these.
Yeah, yeah. So there's also certain drawings that I've introduced into the work of how I see him, and in a way how I'm seeing myself in that process.
Mhm.
This was something that my partner Zishan said during a fight, and I'm quoting him. He said, "The burden of truth always lies with the Muslim who has to prove how normal he is, how non-threatening he is, how much of an atheist he is. What about your family? Will they be proving to me how they won't enforce their beliefs on me?" So the sort of genesis of this work is in this note that he wrote to me 2 years ago, and it reads, Dear Vasudha, saffron and green work so well together. I don't know why they can't see it. Loving you gives me hope. Being loved by you makes me alive. Much like walking barefoot on blades of grass with morning dew in it. Our love is also a protest, an island of hope and joy and warmth amidst all the madness. Love, Zisha. My mother sent me bright purple orchids while Zishan bought me the yellow chrysanthemums and Rajnigandhas for my birthday. In the spur of the moment, I felt compelled to unite their expressions of love. So violently stuffed both bouquets in a vase, but the stems never reached the water beneath. I couldn't help but wonder, was I trying to make the impossible a reality? So through this work, I guess I've just been looking at these various challenges, and a lot has happened since, since we've in the last couple of months. But yeah, it's just something that I've been thinking about building on and working with Mika on since the beginning of this year. And Mika, you want to go into talking about red and blue now?
Yes, thank you, Vasudha. My work explores my marriage and evolving commitment. We've been together for 17 years. And from teenage lovers to the present, I document everyday conversations, from the mundane activities of planning to childcare to our fights, along with photographs of my husband and myself. His to-do lists highlight the unseen labor in our relationship, while images of his Ikebana creation symbolize the delicate care we nurture together. Images in this work represent the repair of cracks and breaks, offering a metaphor for the resilience of a relationship over choosing abandonment. Through this work, I examine not only our evolving bond, but also our creative collaborations and the intimate, often invisible work that sustains love. It's called Red and Blue because when we first met, we were 17 and 18, and my hair was red and his was blue. I looked at these photographs. I went, I brought a roll of film to San Francisco Art Institute from Germany when I moved, undeveloped, and then I developed it at SFAI when I took a course. This photograph was, these two were amongst it. And I saw this in a dark room, and I made prints, and I hung them up, and I knew there was something, but I didn't know what exactly. And so it was these photographs were kind of always a sign that there's something I want to tell, but it needs time. And continue. This was in 2013 and now 2015. So I always kind of, as I was learning to be a photographer and taking on various projects, I was always kind of using Anthony, my husband, as to test a subject. I would photograph him and kind of try to improve my skills as a photographer. And so I would create I have a whole archive of images of him, but I never saw this as a work in itself. I would joke about it, that he's my longest project, basically, but I didn't know what to do with it for the longest time. And I slowly realized that it was probably because it's kind of painful to look at some of the parts, or that if I want to be honest about it, I have to show the beauty and the ugly as well, if I really want to be honest about this work. And we traveled a lot when we were students across, this is in Kuala Lumpur. And we were doing a lot of long distance and had a lot of those challenges as well. And then 2016, By the end of 2016, he came to California to see me, and we went on a road trip through the desert and alongside the road coast. During this trip, he proposed to me. Driving the winding roads from Los Angeles to San Francisco, I played Wicked Game by Chris Isaak on repeat, stealing glances at my new ring, feeling, perhaps for the first time, utterly desired and deeply loved. In 2017, we took a trip through Italy to meet up with my artist friends. Our birthdays, just a day apart, became an excuse for a night of wild dancing, singing, and performance, something for them and for us. But after we left, the joy faded, sadness crept in quietly, and the doubt about us, about what we were, began to grow louder. And I chose this photograph to kind of represent that growing apart in this time when we were engaged. But I started to doubt that I should get married to him. And then recently this year, I went back to the same place in Italy and took a self-portrait on that same couch in the same dress, now with my second daughter with him. And it was a very interesting moment for me of self-reflection of what I felt back then and which decisions I made since then. And
Do you want to mention who took this photograph?
my 7-year-old released a shutter of this one. She's well trained and very good in handling a Hasselblad. Yeah, no, it was quite good. And this is a moment I went for my graduation project in San Francisco. I went back to Russia, to my hometown I've never been to, and that's also the moment when I realized I was pregnant. So I returned to San Francisco pregnant, and I uh, I had to. This is a self-portrait I took in the bathroom in Russia, and I didn't really know why I wanted to take a self-portrait, but I think my intuition was always to capture these extremes of my life when there was about something was about to change. Um, and as a 9-year-old, I made a sketch depicting myself and my future family. And this is a period where it was still a pandemic, and I had given birth to my first daughter, and then I moved back to Germany, and it was really hard for me to settle into motherhood while, like, to find a place. I wouldn't say it was hard, but it was, yeah, it was a road to do both at the same time and learn how to navigate that. Practice and motherhood, and now I think sexuality and seeing myself as a like woman, I think I kind of got lost in the whole process. And this was the first time that I started to take self-portraits and showing my body to myself, and I was kind of gaining back that because yeah, and so self-portraiture helps me a lot to kind of look at myself honestly and really see what desire, what is the desire of this woman, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then earlier this year we had our orchid anniversary, and that's the day after.
Yeah, I particularly like this image because it sort of is a loop, almost like, from so many years ago, and it's like this passage of time that represents um hardships and marriage and intimacy and all of it. And yeah, I'm quite tied to these images.
And yet it's
Thank
such
you.
a sort of startling image, just to take, these two faces, which we now know from
Mhm.
this marriage, and put them sideways and have them look at you. It's we're so used to seeing faces in our standing positions or whatever. I think these two are very uncanny and really powerful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And yeah, I think maybe we'll wrap here, and that's perfectly on time for, I guess, some questions.
Thank you all.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you.
So I already put a message in the chat, but for anyone who came a little bit later, please put all your questions in the chat and I will read them off for Mika and Vasudha to answer. And then obviously Linda is probably going to have some questions and I have some questions.
Will we have in the chat or in whatever follows this, um, information about your books or how to be in touch with you or to acquire those?
So I'm
Yeah.
gonna put up the recording of the talk on YouTube today, and it will be available on our website for a link. And I would love to include the links for your book. And I was also saying I would love to put it in the newsletter for next month.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I have a question if Linda is not jumping in right away.
Oh, sorry. Go,
Um,
Maria.
can I go? Okay.
Please.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, that your exchange, your friendship, but also your artistic exchange, it was like also therapeutic for you both. And I was really interested in hearing a little bit more about what feels healing for you and what are those moments where you feel like, wow, this is, because I feel like it's so precious, your friendship, right? If you can talk a little bit about that.
I'd like to talk about it. I feel, I mean, I have two kids. I have my husband. I'm working from home, and trying to maintain my artistic practice. And I feel so much more seen when through Vasudha and our exchange. I feel taken seriously on a daily basis, and seen with all the labor that surrounds me that I do. And that's, I don't know, I mean, I kind of need that to keep going. It has become easier to do my work since we've been doing this, because I know I can always call her, and she understands that yes, a fight with my partner can then make everything else harder. Everything else depends on my moods and how I feel seen and not seen. And so that's, I think, the core. It's we're feeding each other with it by listening to each other. Yeah.
And I guess I just want to add also that ever since we decided to work together on this body of work, we've been meeting every week, every Tuesday, weekly, to have critique sessions with each other. We spend almost an hour, sometimes 2 hours, just looking at each other's work and our progress, and just talking about what we're dealing with or going through. And it's almost, as Mika said, it's like therapy, but we're also very focused on this body of work that we're trying
Yeah.
to build and work towards, because we're also living through it as we're building it. And in a way, sometimes it can be too much to keep examining your life, but also living it. So being in conversation with each other helps us sort of, yeah, navigate these things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's something else I've just been thinking about. Mika, your early family work had to do I have it right that your family was a Mennonite family? And
Well, they weren't practicing it, but our ancestors are Mennonites, and they came from that, yeah, ethnicity. Yes.
but you had that project where was it done in Canada?
It was done in Russia, Canada, and Germany. Yeah,
Okay.
across three. Yeah.
Because that in a way seems to be another tie-in with the Muslim and Hindu clash that is um, endemic sort of in India.
You can show a
Mm-hmm.
picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Mm.
Because
Mennonite.
I can
Mhm.
remember, that table with all those kids and the guy at the head of the table. I mean, oh, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, anyway, that seems to be another um, place of that could be re-looked at or thought of in some different way with your projects.
You mean how our projects are connected or our themes, like
Yeah, that could
like the
be.
religious?
I mean, if I think like all of us, we tend to look at what's happening sort of now, especially
Mhm.
for photographers,
Mm-hmm.
But if you can look back at that earlier work and those themes,
Mhm.
I think that this might be one that would tie into um, your cross-cultural
Mm-hmm.
relationships
Mhm.
Yeah.
and how unstructured and
Mm-hmm.
less precedented as one of
Mm-hmm.
those strict um, culturally defined systems.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think both of us have always sort of looked at the various, larger superstructures that really influence the personal, whether we think of religion or family or gender or identity, like
Right.
we're both approaching these things, but through a very, very personal lens. Mika was looking at when she did this body of work about her sisters, her six sisters, seven sisters. Um,
Six. Yeah.
six
Mhm.
sisters, and then the other work in Norilsk about her early family life, and then with mother tongue it became about her relationship with her mother-in-law, and so it's always been circling around ideas of family and identity and how deeply linked it is to one's feminist assertion in a way. Like, how can she sort of identify what she thinks or believes outside of a larger institution,
Right.
whether it's religion or family or, so I think similarly, even for me, I'm trying to assert myself outside of this family unit. And, I don't think that being with, protesting and being in this relationship is for him. I think it's for me. It's for me to be able to choose freely and to love freely. And that is, again, once again, an act as a feminist assertion. Like, to be able to choose freely is a feminist issue. So I think we're both working around the very same themes, but through different, personal lenses, and that's why we're able to be in conversation with each other um, through that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Does anyone else have any questions? Jessica, hi.
Hi, Jessica. So cool to see you. Yes.
Yeah.
Hi guys. So nice to see
Uh,
you.
Nice to see you too. I wish I could see you. I don't know if
Wait,
we
let
could.
me let me put my camera on.
Oh,
Hi.
wow. Hi.
Oh, it's so nice to see you, Mika.
I
And you
haven't
too,
seen you
Vasud.
I haven't seen you since my baby shower.
I
So
know, that's true.
I can only see the second half of the bottom half of your face.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
there,
how weird.
there you are. Okay.
Well, yes, I wanted to ask a question about like, what you were commenting, Mika, about Vasudha's show right now, like about uh, uh, some level of intolerance that the public might have to
Mm,
the images. And so, like,
mhm,
thinking of these images of both of your work, actually, in diff like, how do both of you think of it in
mhm,
terms of the context of the public, right? So, like,
mhm,
showing your work, Mika, for instance, in
mhm,
Russia or in the United States or in Germany or, where Anthony's ancestors come from, which I'm not sure where they're from. It might change the lens of how the
mhm,
work is understood. And the same for Vasudha, if she shows her work now in India, and if she showed it the same piece in the United States or in Germany, or like
mhm,
how do you think about this, and how do you
mhm,
strategize? Like, is there a strategy to be able to for outreach, or for you also to test how, like yourselves, So I just wanted to hear a little bit how you approach that.
mhm. Do you want to say, Vasudha?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. I think it's not easy because even to put this work out in the public has been an arduous process. It's taken me 5 years to do that, to get it in some way, shape, or form. Presentable to a public in India. As Mika mentioned, there's been a spate of incidents where the public has vandalized artwork that is, that centers nudity or the body or eroticism, and even like a feminist anger. There's this French Algerian artist whose work was taken down, where she simply wrote text where women were expressing anger, and that seemed to offend men. So I think that it is a very political time in this country. Um, there's heightened sort of awareness of sort of what is okay, what is not okay. And I think that presenting this work is challenging. But at the same time, there are so many nuances of talking about caste and how caste relates to the body, how some of the women that I've collaborated with, experience, these social structures which would not be as easily understood in another context. So I think that talking about caste becomes easier when it's entrenched in a society that practices it, for example. But if I'm presenting that same work in, say, Germany or America or wherever else, there is a kind of distance because caste is not a reality in that society. So I think that there are this push and pull of narratives that would work in certain contexts and not. But I don't know. I think a lot of I have to let it go. I have to make the work and put it out there and see how people engage with it and respond to it and leave that out of my control. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I do think it would be perceived very differently. Yeah.
What is the context of this exhibition you're talking about? Is it in an art gallery or a museum? Is it in
It's in
an
a gallery.
institution,
Yeah.
educational institution?
It's in a gallery. Yeah. It's in a gallery. It's in the south of Bombay, which is where a lot of the art galleries are located.
Okay.
Um, The work also has a sound piece, which is sort of like a layering of various women's voices, almost like a stream of consciousness, where they talk about their relationship with their bodies, as well as these photographs and the artist book that I showed. Yeah.
Good. And has
Yeah.
the response been pretty good so far?
It's opening next week.
Oh,
So I
we
can
may
tell
have to do
you.
a follow-up.
Yeah, yeah. But so far, the response has been very encouraging and supportive by the larger community, which is nice.
Good.
Yeah. Mika, do you want to talk
Yes.
about,
Well,
the
I think the work that I was mostly afraid to show was my last I Have Done Nothing Wrong. I was terrified when the show opened in Arles in 2022, especially because it's a major festival and so many people will see it, and also they had a chance to vote for the best work in that space, and there was a prize, like there were just a lot of things going on at the same time, and I was really, really terrified.
Could you
And
say a little bit more about what the context?
the content is sorry
All right.
of my book is uh, overcoming sexual child abuse through my grandfather. I was abused as a child for several years, and so were a lot of other girls in my family, and we knew about it from each other, but none of us had the courage to tell the adults in the family. So when we were in my 30s, my mother found out through somebody else, and that's when it kind of opened the conversation and for me. And also when I became a mother, I started to be triggered whenever my child would play with older men and sit on their lap or something like that. I would just be really terrified. So I went through it, and it was very therapeutic work. I took a walk from my former childhood home back to my grandfather's former grandfather's apartment, and I would take these walks alone, photograph along that way. And so when Vasudha mentioned, it's like a walk, like I'm walking with you to back to the place of what happened, and then I started writing a play where it's starting from a point that really happened between me and him, a conversation we had where we were sitting in the living room in 2005, and my grandfather sits in an armchair and reading a newspaper, and I'm sitting and writing my notebook. What are you writing? He's asking, and I say, a fantasy story. And he answers, not about me, though. And I say, no, why? I have done nothing wrong. And later only I kind of realized these words because he was pointing like this. And I think he was really worried that I would write about what happened. And he knew exactly what happened. But it was always this silent, this little secret between us, right? So I took these images, and when I first shown them in Arles, France, and the play was there to read, and it's very long. And so my work also required you to read. And I was worried about photographers coming, do they want to read? But everybody just read. Like they were sitting there down on the floor and were reading it and sobbing sometimes. And it was very intense, the public, to see the public looking at something so intimate. And from that experience on, I lost kind of fear to share anything because I feel there are always people who will give me love, and the others I don't need. So I don't care anymore. I can show anything anywhere, and I'll just jump and do it.
Good.
Mhm.
Did he know that that you did make public this? Is he
Oh,
still
he
alive?
passed away. He passed away. So I'm confronting a dead man.
Yeah.
And there was a silent criticism, not directly to me, when they were deciding to give me another prize, if it's okay to talk about a dead person like that. But there were a lot of women in the jury that said yes, it's okay,
Yes.
and then because there's no way I made this up, that would be crazy, and so they believed the story is true and worth telling. So yeah.
Very brave. Hmm.
Thank you so much, everyone. We got a comment, not a question, please. Colette, do you want to close it out,
Hi,
our
Colette.
Q&A? I believe you are able to unmute yourself and also put your video on.
Hey.
Hello.
Well,
Hello.
hello.
I can only
I'm
see. There you are.
I'm
Hi.
I'm
Hello.
hello, Linda. You look amazing. I'm calling in from England,
I
and I'm a
know.
former student of Linda's.
Oh,
I
hi.
think I was the most impressed with this collaboration that you have. I have never heard of an artist collaboration with this kind of intimacy, and how I think it probably facilitates not only your work, but your hashing out of all of these ideas. And I think that is absolutely extraordinary and inspiring. And I also want to comment that both of your what you have shown of your photography, the portraiture, was really compelling, because I think that you were able to capture not superficial emotions, but really deep emotions. I mean, and it communicated them. You didn't have to work. I mean, I just wanted to keep staring at them, because I felt like they continued to unfold. And so I just want to congratulate you on that achievement. And I'm excited. I didn't know about you before this, hearing about this presentation, that I'm not always able to, not everything is online, but this was. And it's very exciting. Keep going. I want to learn more about what you do in the future. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you so
Colette.
much.
Yeah.
That's very
Thank you.
heartfelt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks a
All
lot,
right,
really.
everyone. Thank you so much. We got a couple of really nice other comments from Alberta, who doesn't have a microphone, and wanted to thank you for this wonderful, intimate view of your friendship and how it became an important creative process for both of you. And also from Jessica Cook, I agree with Colette, very powerful work, lady. So thank you so much to all of you, to Linda for getting up so early, for
That's okay.
Vasudha for staying up so late, and
Oh,
for
Thank you.
Mika for making time. It's
For
dinner time in
me,
Germany.
it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Thank you all so much. Are there any last comments before I stop the recording and we get to say hi? Anything you want to say?
no.
It's a good point to end it. Okay, great.